Hey guys, this is Jadero, and today's tutorial will be on the Heaven's Gate bracelet. It is a beautiful design created by Adele Griffiths on Instagram. She created this bracelet to specially incorporate beads, so she did a great job on that aspect. It is a pretty simple technique, but it does take quite a bit of time, and there are a couple different steps that are not, let's say, as common that we do in most of our bracelets. So this one here, it was done on 2 looms, and it is just a little bit too long for my wrist, so I would probably not do just the last section, and it would probably fit just fine. So there are a couple things that I'd like to explain to you before we begin, just to give you a little bit of insight. This bracelet has, as you can see, it is designed to have a row of beads in the center. It is suggested to use anything of the size less than 10 millimeter. Anything above 10 millimeter will be quite big to be up the center. So as you can see, I tried to use a couple different size rhinestones. They are raised, so we're going to try to fix that as we're looming this. This one on the end here, this is a 6 millimeter rhinestone, and it fits quite pretty. It seems to be the right size, and it nestles down in. The next one here is an 8 millimeter rhinestone, and it is pretty big. I would not suggest using that size, as it does stick up quite far. On the outside, I used on this bracelet seed beads, and seed beads can be purchased in a container like this. This brand, for instance, is Bead Treasures, and it says 6/0 seed bead white. So they are a very tiny bead, but they are very nice to add to loom bands. They go on quite nicely. You will need every band on the sides with a bead on it, so you want to make sure that you pick a bead that will slide on easily, and most importantly, on your outside border band, when we are completed with the bracelet, we have to do quite a bit of fixing and putting beads into place, which means you're going to be taking your bead and sliding it up and down. So you want to make sure that you use very durable bands that you feel confident are not going to break if you are moving your beads around on them a lot. Okay, so another thing I'd like to mention is if you're going to use 1 loom, it will take about 91 bands for this zigzag pattern. Okay, we have 2 zigzags. We have this zigzag here in this purple metallic, and then another zigzag here in the gold metallic, and then the center chain is about 11 chain beads that are going to go up the center. Again, this is just if you're doing 1 loom. If you're doing 2, then you're going to double everything. On the outside, excuse me, you're going to need about 28 to 30 beaded bands. Okay, so all of that, of what I mentioned, is what you will need before you begin the tutorial. So, I am going to challenge myself today, and because of the name of the bracelet, I would like to put these little angel charms that I created down the center. So they do sell these at Michael's and AC Moore, Joann Fabrics on a string. It would have a crystal bead for the body, and then you'll see the wings, and then you'll see another crystal bead, and then you'll see this round rondelle for a halo. In my case, excuse me, I'm sorry, I am coming down with a cold. I did not have any of those left, and plus the crystal beads it made it too large for me to put onto the loom. So I made this one. Goodness, I'm so sorry. Okay, so I did have just these wings by themselves. Okay, and all I did was I added these pearl 6mm beads for the head, and these are round rondelle beads, mostly as like a spacer bead you would use in between for the halo. So you can make this yourself. Okay, so your loom needs to be in a 5-pin setup configuration. Okay, which means that your first and 5th pin bar will be at the same level, your 2nd and 4th pin bar will be at the same level, and your middle 3rd pin bar will be the longest. Okay, thus creating this V shape. I suggest doing an extension, or possibly if you can do 2 looms, it comes out beautifully, the full length. But as much as I want to make this bracelet in 2 looms, I'm just going to do one today for this tutorial, because this is the 4th time that I have taped this. So I'm going to explain how you need to do this bracelet according to how it was designed. How I'm going to do it is going to be a little bit different. Okay, so you can either do it the way I'm doing it, or you can do it the way that it was designed. And with that being said, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our beaded bands into a single chain up the middle pin bar. Okay, so that's the first one you need to have ready to go. And that is about maybe 11 or 22 bands, with your first band being a plain band. So it needs to be every single band needs to be beaded except the first one. Okay, so that's what you'll need to get ready first. The colors of my choosing for my middle chain is a white, glitter white by Rainbow Loom. It is suggested for you to use a thicker band for the center chain. For example, any type of a silicone or any bands from the Rainbow Loom 300 packs, to give it more durability. Okay, so let me get my colors. Again, and to honor the name of this bracelet, Heaven's Gate, I'm going to use Rainbow Loom's Glitter Gold and the Glitter White. And I'm also going to use the Glitter Blue. Glitter Blue can be purchased at the Learning Express store. It is not sold online on rainbowloom.com. You can find it online at the Learning Express. Okay, so I'm pretty sure if I forgot anything, I will have it in the description box, or if it comes to me, I will mention. All of my side beaded bands are going to be this round rondelle, what we are using for the halo. That's what I choose to use for my outside bands. Those you will not need until the last step, so we're going to loom before we place those. Okay, let's get started. So again, with your loom in this configuration and the pin bars facing away from you, this first band in the middle we're placing is going to be a plain band. Every band from here on out is going to be a beaded band. Okay? You have to pay attention to me because I'm not doing it the way I'm supposed to be doing it, and you'll see why. So I had to eliminate the body of this because I needed something to fit in between 2 pin bars. Okay? This does fit in between 2 pin bars, but in a normal design that I would do using this type of beaded arrangement, I would do every other pin. I've already done this with every pin, taped the tutorial and everything, and it was too bunched up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do every other one. If you are using just a regular bead, please place a bead in every pin. Okay, do not do what I'm doing if you're using a regular pin or a bead, if that makes sense. If you choose to do the angel charm, you may do every other one, but understand that this bracelet was completely designed to have every other band beaded, and you'll see why later on. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly place these on my loom. I'm not sure if it was a great idea that I chose a challenge to do for the tutorial, but I wanted, excuse me, I wanted to keep the, I probably spent almost a week trying to figure out what to add to this bracelet because it is just such a very special name, and I really try to stick with the theme as much as possible, so I'm really hoping this turns out nicely. Okay, so if you're using one loom, you're going to the end of the pin bar right there. If you're using two, you will continue until the end. Okay, so a beaded band goes all the way up to the end. So this is what your loom should look like so far. All we have is a single chain of beads up the middle pin bar. Okay, now our next step is we're going to be adding a zigzag pattern. So as you can see in this bracelet here, this zigzag here in the metallic purple, the outer zigzag, that will be placed first. The inner zigzag, which I have in gold metallic, will be placed second. So if you need to coordinate your colors, you're going to be starting with this outside color first. Okay? So I'm going to choose glitter blue. So we're going to take this first pin bar here, and we're going to double add 2 bands and take it diagonally to the second pin bar, second peg. So place 2 double bands there. Now this is the only time you're going to place a double band. The rest of the zigzag is going to be done in just 1 band. So this is a standard zigzag going from the second pin bar to the first pin bar all the way up. It should not be connected to the center chain. It is simply on the outside 2 pin bars, and we're going to do this on both sides of our bracelet. Okay, so I'm going to come back down. I'm going to show you on this side. So again, the first one we're going to place is going to be 2 bands. It's going to be from the 5th pin bar, first peg, to the 4th pin bar, second peg. 2 bands. Okay, and then from here on out, we're just adding a zigzag in and out of the last 2 pin bars. And you're doing this all the way up the loom. I might be able just to kind of put these on quickly and continue. I do not want this tutorial to be an hour long, as we need to focus and put more attention on other parts of this bracelet. So let's just place these on just quickly so we can have more time in the end. If you are using a band such as the Medievals dual layer, you really want to take your time and make sure that they are not twisted, because you are going to spend a ton of time making this bracelet and you do not want them twisted. So as you can see on the left side here, I am at my last band. Okay, so when you are placing your last band, it should be excuse me, in a line with where your last bead is, and this is where the last peg is that we used for the center chain. So we are not going to go any further than that. And same goes, sorry, for this side on the right. I've also done this bracelet without beads, and it does come out quite beautifully as well. Okay, so this is what your loom should look like, where you stopped your beaded or your zigzag, and it is on the outer pin bars, so we have a nice space in between. Nothing is attached to this middle chain. Okay, so now we're going to place our inner zigzag. So in this case, it is the gold that's going to surround the center chain. And for this one, I am going to alternate between gold and glitter white. Okay, so for this one here, you want to go from the second pin bar in to the second pin, middle pin bar. And this zigzag is what is going to connect our first zigzag to our single chain. So you're going to place a band there, and that's a single band, and then out to the left. As you can see, when we do loom this, this is what's connecting the single chain, then it's connect the zigzag. So the same for this side, same pattern. Okay, so we're just simply going to continue this pattern. Oops. I said I was going to do every other. I need to follow through. I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself. I'm going to alternate my colors between glitter gold and glitter white. Trying to not hurry, but I think this is a pretty simple technique of placing bands, so I am going to move along quite quickly. If I were using a dual layered band, I would not be able to do this as quickly because I would constantly be turning my bands so they are not twisted. So it is kind of a nice break to put these bands on where I'm not having to worry constantly if they are twisted or not. Even though the outcome is gorgeous, these go on quite smoothly. Okay, we're approaching the end here. So in this case, for this middle zigzag, we are going to take our band up into and meet where our last band is for the single chain. Okay, so this one goes up, so now you have a straight line that way. Alright, I'm going to turn this around, and we're going to follow the same steps as we just did for this side. So again, starting right here, going in. I have to do this with my left hand or my hand will be in the way. So we're going into the left, out to the right, using single bands. I had gotten into the habit early on in looming that whenever I place a band, to push it down when I'm done. That way when I am completely done adding bands, I'm not going back and pressing my bands down. You will need to make sure that your bands are pressed down when we go to loop. Alright, we are placing our last band. Again, we are placing it to meet in the center on this center peg here. Now we are done for this point of adding our bands. The only thing we need to do now is to add a cap band to this center band up here. Okay, now this plan is that we are going to loom, and then we need to add some more bands and do a little bit of hook stitching. Okay, and that's where our beaded bands are going to come in. Okay, it is pretty simple looming process that we're used to. I'm just going to place these over to the side. My goal is to try to get this on camera for you. Okay, so when we turn our loom around, if you have a specific type of charm in the middle, it is now going to be upside down. Okay. According to Adele, I'm doing this tutorial exactly as she had explained. To put your charms face up, okay, even though they're buried in there. Typically, anytime we do a bracelet where we put the center chain or that down first and put bands on top, the bottom side of the bracelet would be the surface of the outcome bracelet when you take it off the loom. That's what happened to me in my case. Every time I've done this design and pulled it off, the bottom side ends up being the finished side. But in this case here, this top side here should be the signature side. So we may have to play around a little bit with our beads. So with that being said, we're going to go inside this cap band here, and we're just going to simply loop everything that's on top back to itself. So if you placed your bands the way I have, we're going out to the left, going out to the right, and taking the center chain one back up to the top. Okay, so you should have looped 3 bands out. Now this center chain all the way going forward is going to act as the cap band. Okay, so from here on out, we're going to go into the center, and we're going to loop every single band back to itself. So you should have 4 bands in here going to all 4 corners. And as you can see, as I said, that Adele had designed this bracelet for to add beads, because your bead's going right here, and she has it designed where it's opening all of that up to display the bead in the middle. So we're going to go to the next chain or the next peg and do the exact same thing. You're going to go in order and loop out every band back to itself, and always last should be the center chain going forward, and no bands should be twisted. You're always looping whatever is on top until you reach the bottom. Okay, center chain up. Now I'm going to speed up just a tad. So the way we placed our zigzag, which should be when you are looping, all bands to the left should go first, to the bottom left, to the top left, and then to the bottom right, top right, and then your chain. Because I'm only doing 1 loom, I'm just going to go ahead and loop everything if I can with you. If you are using two looms, please feel free to pause when I'm finished and complete yours and meet back with me. Okay, now this is our last one we're doing here, looping in the same manner, everything back to itself. Now this last one, typically we would take it and go forward. We're going to take that middle chain band and we're going to take it to the left peg. Then we're going to take the one that's on the top peg off and take it to the right peg. These will be the two bands that we finish up with our bracelet. So everything will be loomed to these two bands now. Okay, that's the first step. So push everything down as you will be looping on top of those. So this is what your loom should look like. But, okay, pay attention. Because I told you every single band should be beaded in the middle, you should not have any band like that. It should all be an open center. But because I placed every other band without a bead, just because of the type of charm I'm using, I have this center band in here, okay? So yours shouldn't look like this if you are putting a regular bead down the center. Okay, so our next step is to go ahead and loom the outside zigzag band. Okay, now the key to this one is every single one of these will be loomed to the outside peg. So typically we would go in here, grab that band and take it to the left, and then normally we would take and go back in here and zigzag loom it. But in this case we're going to go into the second pin, grab the band on that end and take it back to itself on the outer peg. Okay, all bands will be looped back to themselves on the outer peg. I have done this bracelet so many times and made so many errors because I think I was just trying too hard that I did end up looming them in the zigzag pattern and then starting all over again. So I'm trying to emphasize steps that I missed to ensure that you don't make the same error. Our last set on top here. Okay, now this last peg, don't forget it has two bands. We've doubled our bands there, so you need to pull two bands off the bottom and place it back on that peg. So that's a double band there. And again, I am going a bit quick because I want to make sure we have time to go through other steps. So I do not mean to loom like a maniac, but you can always pause the video. Everybody has different looming techniques and speeds, so because we have a couple steps after this of adding our beaded bands, and I want to make sure that we have time to do that in a detailed manner. And I am quite happy to be doing a loom design. I've been doing a lot of hook onlys, monster tail, so it is quite refreshing to do a design on the loom, and plus I've had some requests for it, so I'm happy that this will make them happy as well. Okay, so after we are done completely looming up our last zigzag, we have one more step that we need to do before we add our outside beaded bands. So we're going to go into the right pin bar in the first peg where we have 4 bands. Every pin bar or every peg on the outside should have 4 bands. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to grab that last bottom band from the outside here, like that. And we're going to take it up and over that pin. Okay, go in and grab the last band on that pin. Make sure that none of your bands are overlapped. The last band, bring it up and over. Last band, up and over. And we're going to continue that the whole way up this side of the loom. And this last one here will bring this one up and over. Okay, it's a little bit hard to see, but you should have a band going straight across each pin. This is what makes it the signature side of the bracelet. Okay, so we're going to turn our loom around and do the exact same thing on this end, bringing this bottom band up and over. I kind of give it a little bit of a pull. And our last one here. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my right side, and now we're going to add our beaded bands. So we're going to go to the pin bar, or the pin right next to the cap band. So here's the cap band, the one right to the right. We're going to just do a slip knot, that's all. This will be the same technique that we do at the end of our bracelets. Whenever we close them up, we stick our hook down, pull band through, same exact concept. So take the one side of your beaded band up through, we're going to put it to the side of the pin. And we're going to take and put the other side of that beaded band on our hook. Take the top band on your hook and bring it up on over. And then slide it behind your bead. You want your bead to be hanging out. Okay, this one I can show a little bit better. Stick your hook down inside every band on that hook. Grab a hold of the beaded band, bring it to the side, place the other side back on, take the first band, bring it over and behind your bead. Mine are just a little tad difficult because they're flat. Now, I'm going to give you a huge hint. Do not pull these tight. Do not make those slip knots tight. You want to make them just enough where they're going to hold, because in the end, when we pull this off of our loom, we need to do a lot of adjusting, and we need to loosen these slip knots. So if you want to make them really tight now, you're going to loosen them all later. So just do it enough just to keep it in place. And when placing that knot behind the bead, will do a perfect job on locking it in. So I'm just going to speed this up. I don't believe I've seen this done yet on a design, so this may be something new Adele has brought to us, which will be interesting to see what other bracelets we can incorporate it in. It's a fabulous idea, and it is especially designed around adding beads, which is great. Because technically what we do normally is try to incorporate beads into a regular band design, so it's kind of cool to have one specifically for beads. I have done this bracelet without beads, and it comes out just as pretty, so it can be done. Okay, we're going to do this last pin, and there you have it. Now we're going to go ahead and complete this right side of the bracelet. We're going to do the next step and be all done. So we're just basically looping every one of these bands together. So we're going to take our first loop, put it on our hook, and get our second loop, put it on our hook. Take the first loop, bring it up on over the second loop, put it behind your bead, and move forward. Grab that next loop, bring the existing loop over the top and behind your bead. I like to use my fingers, but you totally don't have to. You can just loom it. But I don't want my bands to be twisted, and I want this behind my bead, so I just kind of use my fingers. But it's super easy. Kind of like another slip knot effect. So it's going to create a chain, and it's going to be straight. Okay, so if you have some tension, that is normal. But that tension we're going to fix when we take it off our loom. And our last one here, going to take and put behind that bead. And with this band left on our hook, we're going to take it and we're going to attach it to that pin bar, or that pin right there, and that's the one that I told you. These two here are ones connecting everything, and that's it. That is the end of this side of the bracelet. Now we're just going to go to this side here and do the exact same thing, then we will be done. So we're going to go to this side of the cap band. Oops, I already have this one done. I kind of screwed up earlier. Always bring them to the side because we want them looped on the side here. I am not a fan of editing my tutorials, so if I am doing this and it is so like, come on now, it's because I don't want to have to put like 500, see you back when we're done together. It takes forever to connect the videos, so I guess I'm just lazy like that. That's okay. I prefer to do tutorials where people actually loom with me. But if I was doing 2 looms long, I wouldn't be doing the whole thing. Couple more to lift. And also understand that this bracelet, as any other bracelet, is going to look different depending on what type of bands that you use. If you're using the new Rainbow Loom 600 pack dual layer, which are very thin, it may be a little bit spacey in between your bands or whatnot. I have used them and did this design. It does come out quite beautifully. If you're using the medieval bands or the 300 pack bands, which are thicker, you're going to have a fuller bracelet. LE bands, be real careful if you're using those on the outside here to do your slip knots, because they do not want to stick into that slip knot very well. They're easy to come apart, so make sure you have that good and in place. And we are doing our last one. Yay! Now we are ready to do what we did on the other side, which is connecting them all. So I'm left-handed, I kind of have to twist it this way. So we're going to grab that first loop. Okay, then the second loop, bring the first one over and behind our bead. Grab our second loop. Geez, it's a little bit difficult when you're filming, but we got it. And I am not in my typical filming location, so you hear rattling. It's because I'm on a different surface. Always making sure that that band is sitting behind your bead. And we are almost completed. Last one. Yay! Now we're going to take our last band on our hook and place it on this peg here. Thus, we are done. How exciting! Okay, so this is the time that you want to grab your C-clip, which I do not have one on hand. And we're going to take a regular plain band, I'll just do it on camera so it's not like awkward. I need to take my C-clip out of this one because I did not bring one. And just pray that this doesn't fall apart. So I need my Loom hook. Just stick my hook in there and in here and hold that. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so you wanna grab the plain band that is the same color as your single chain. So we're gonna take and put our hook into this peg here that holds all of the bands on the left. Go down and through, grab that single band, bring it up through, and I'm just gonna lay it right on top, like that. Then we want to take this other end of that band and we want to take our hook and go through this peg, bring it up through the center. Okay, so what we're doing is we're grabbing one band and connecting these two. So I'm just going to place it on this peg here. I'm going to go back down in and grab the other end of that band that we just placed right here and put it on this peg. So that one band connected these two, and then you can take your C-clip and clip those two bands right there. So this bracelet is not a bracelet that's going to be hard to take off the loom, so you don't have to take every single peg out, but I'm going to take my outside ones out first, because I just noticed when I went to pull it off the loom, they're the ones that were kind of stuck. Okay, so remember when I said about your middle chain of bling bands, okay? Because Adele had designed this where your bling, this side, this top side here, is the signature side. And if you forget which side is the signature side, it's always the side where we took that band and brought it up and over. That is visible, that is the signature side. Now Adele had designed this with these holes in the middle, and her design is where the bling ends up on this side. In my case, for whatever reason, my bling ends up on the bottom side. So if yours happens to do the same thing, I will show you how to fix it. Okay, so we should be able to kind of take the C-clip, kind of pull a little bit towards opposite direction and pull off our doom. All right. Okay, so the side that you don't have any beads, okay, where you can see the band looped over like this, that is the signature side. This is the side that was on the top of our loom. For some reason in my case, the beads end up on the opposite side. So if this happens to you, you go in here where you see this hole. There are holes that we created, remember? I'm just simply going to take my charm or bead and bring it through this hole, just like that. It's very easy. And that way, my bling is on the signature side of the bracelet. Now, I have done a complete tutorial on this exact design using these on every single pin bar or pin, and this is why I redid it and did every other, so it is not crowded. I am in love with this. Wow, how pretty, especially for Christmas, and I'm sure you can understand my want for adding something to fit the name Heaven's Gate. So if you're not one to bling, bling bracelets do not just come right off the loom. There's a bit of pulling and stretching and replacing of beads and bands that you kind of need to do. So don't get frustrated or think that, you know, you did something wrong or we did something wrong, because that is not the case. It's just normal. I'm just taking mine and giving it a little tug. So now all of mine is placed in the center. Okay, now we need to do a little bit of adjusting on these outside beaded bands. This one came out actually pretty good where you can't really see the spaces. The other one I did, it came out like that where you had a ton of spaces. So every one of our beads is right next to our slip knot, remember? But on the opposite side, the slip knot is visible. You want to either take your fingernail, but be careful if you do that. And you always want to make sure these bands are on the outside and your bead is visible. Or you can take your hook. But you want to go into that slip knot and you want to loosen it up. Okay, just give it a tad, a little bit of a tug. And that will fill in any gaps you may have between this beaded band on the outside and your finished bracelet on the inside. And you can kind of slide your bead around so it is positioned the way you'd like to have it. Okay, so if you see by doing that, okay, the bottom, the band that we brought up and over, that's this band right here next to this. Okay, that needs to be right next to it. And if you loosen up your slip knot, it kind of fills in that gap. Okay, so you will need to do that all the way around your bracelet. Depending on what type of beads or bands you used will be the level of difficulty, but this is why I ask you to please use durable bands on the outside, because you have to move around your charm or your bead, and especially using the correct size that we mentioned, so you are not using a bead that is so tight on your band that as soon as you touch it, you know. So that is how you will fix it up. I love mine. I think it looks great. I hope you are happy with your bracelet. I would love to see, as well as Adele, we'd love to see your renditions of it. So if you could please hashtag us on Instagram and let us see what you came up with, the color schemes and what beads you use. You know, that's what gets me going. I love to see everybody's renditions. Okay, here are mine, and again, this is Heaven's Gate, created by Adele Griffiths on Instagram. I hope you enjoy this tutorial as much as I did, and please make sure that you hashtag your creations on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook and Pinterest, so please let me know what you came up with, and love to see it. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, let's bling it.